I think a lot of people expect software to come in and solve their problem, but that's not how I look at it. If you have an existing process built out that you're doing, and that process is tight and it's repeatable, then and only then should you be evaluating software to come in and automate it.
Welcome to IndustrialSage, a free video podcast series all about digital marketing for industrial manufacturers. Hear interviews with your peers and find out how they're solving the same challenges that you might be facing in your own field. Coming to you from the Optimum Production Studio in Atlanta, Georgia, this is IndustrialSage.
All right, so let's jump into this episode. We have Brian Moseley from Databox who's joining us today. Brian, hey, thank you so much for coming and joining us. For those who don't know you, if you could just introduce yourself to the audience, tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, what you're doing at Databox.
Sure. My name is Brian Moseley. I live in sunny Boston, Massachusetts. And I've been in Martech now for a little over 5 years. I started working at a marketing agency, and that led me to working for the marketing automation software company called Hubspot.
Small company, yeah. No, sorry.
Well, ironically, we were a small company when I started. That was back in 2013. We had about 500 employees, and went through the IPO with them. So I was on the agency side doing sales and onboarding new agency partners. Then I had a sales manager role for a year, and that led me to follow a mentor of mine, Pete Caputa, over to become the CEO of Databox. So when Pete took over last January in 2017, I came over as director of sales, and coming up on my 2-year anniversary there. So it's been a pretty great ride.
That's awesome. That's great. So actually, for those who aren't familiar a little bit with Databox, what exactly do you guys do?
So we're a data visualization tool. There's a lot of us out there. There's probably 24 that I could recommend in good faith that are great tools. And the thing we do, which is similar to every other tool, is we take data from a lot of different places and consolidate it into a slick-looking, consistent dashboard.
Great. I'm curious about this. Are you guys exclusive to marketing, or are you just all things data, or is there a particular niche you're trying to focus on?
It's a great question. So every company should be focusing on some niche or vertical or ecosystem in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, you can never be all things to all people. So right. I think a mistake that a lot of these data visualization companies in the space are making is that they try to go too wide. The playbook 4 or 5 years ago in this space was, let's connect to everything that's possible. And as we all know, the world has finite resources, and it's impossible to invest in and support hundreds and hundreds of APIs. You can do it, but you won't go deep into any one, and it kind of leaves your customers wanting more complete integrations with fewer apps rather than trying to connect to hundreds of apps. So Databox does focus on marketing and sales technology stacks. Again, there's other companies that focus on Martech and sales tech stacks as well, but that's our ecosystem.
Perfect. No, great. I was just curious about that. Yeah, because data obviously is a big thing across the board, and there's a lot of data out there. So great to know. So we were talking before a little bit, and before we started here on a call previously, just a little bit about the Martech stack. And for those who are for our audience who are it's new, whatever. When we talk about Martech stack, we're talking about basically all the different marketing technologies that you might have, whether it's a HubSpot or using a Databox or using Zapier, whatever. The 800, I don't know how many there are now. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of SaaS companies there are. But anyways, taking all of those and then putting them together to be able to say, okay, well, we want to be able to do ads, and we want those to lead into email marketing, and we want and we want to be able to have retargeting, all this good stuff. That there's a little bit of sometimes that can be a little bit of a problem, right? And so one of those things was that we talked about what happens when your Martech stack just goes wild, Martech gone wild, right? And we were kind of joking around, with some stories and things about that. But I think it really resonates. Like, it's a real thing. Tell me a little bit about your experience with Martech gone wild and what you've heard from other customers that I'm sure doesn't happen to anybody else, right?
So like 10 years ago, the only thing you had to check for digital marketing was Google Analytics. I cared about how was I ranking, did I get more people to my website this month than last month? So it was really easy. But Google Analytics has become really complex, and I mean that in a good way. But it also, being complex, it also allows people to not focus as well on one thing. So now 10 years later, now we've got Salesforce and HubSpot CRMs. You've got your email system, whether you're using Mailchimp or ActiveCampaign or HubSpot. Then now you've got chatbots like Drift. Now you've got conversational marketing, and then you're running Google ads and Facebook ads. So the thing I learned at HubSpot was all marketers feel that 50% of their marketing isn't working, but they don't know which 50%. And now that there's a lot more tools out there and a lot more channels out there, organic social media, paid social media, like the list goes on and on. So you can't, just like I said, you can't be all things to all people. You can't do everything, especially if you're a relatively smaller marketing team, six or less people. So you've got to stick to your guns and you got to stick to what's working. Typically a content strategy is really good. A promotional strategy around social is really good. And then maybe one other thing that you're kind of taking a flyer on, like something that you're testing. So like maybe you're testing video or chat or conversational marketing. So like my advice is, you can't do everything. So like focus on like 3 things, find what's working, and try to really simplify your life. Because the more you make the more you make things complex, the less you're able to prioritize, and that'll really kill a marketing team's resources.
No, absolutely, and I love the stat about 50%. Just trying to figure out what that is. It's kind of paradoxical, maybe, if I'm using that word right, in the sense that you go from, hey, we're maybe if you're transitioning over from a traditional sense of marketing over to digital, we're doing that because we can measure it and it's amazing. But then it's almost like you go way overboard. You're like, there's so much that we're measuring that we're not even measuring what we're measuring. It's like next level. It's Inception right there, right?
It is. Yeah. If you were just measuring lead form fills or like goal completions in Google Analytics, life would be great. The nice thing about HubSpot, if you're using it, is they do a great job of measuring like 3 KPIs: visits, leads, customers. And then if you want to add 2 more bonus KPIs, it's the conversion rates between all of those. So the visitor to lead conversion rate and the lead to customer conversion rate. If you're a B2B company in manufacturing or industrial, really those are the 5 metrics you should be tracking, and everything else should be feeder metrics into those top 5 metrics. So there's this concept that we didn't invent, but it's in our methodology. It's it was invented by Franklin Covey actually back in the 90s, and it's relevant now more than ever in the digital age. It's called the 4 disciplines of execution. And the methodology describes 2 different types of indicators or metrics: leading indicators and lagging indicators. The best example I can give is the simple sales one. In sales, you have to make 50 phone calls to book a meeting.
Right.
So, and then you have to have 10 meetings to book an appointment, and then 10 appointments to sell a deal, right? Everybody understands that funnel. So the calls and the meetings and the appointments, those are all leading indicators. And the lagging indicator is, they call it a lagging indicator because once you see it, it's already gone. You can't change it. So that's your monthly sales. But that applies to marketing also. So how many blog posts you create, that's a leading indicator. How much traffic comes out the other end, that's a lagging indicator. So what I think a lot of marketers are missing is this ability to think in that way, that like we've got a few very critical activities that we can do that are going to lead to this outcome of more marketing qualified leads for my sales team. So I challenge marketers all the time and say, what are your 3 things that you what are the 3 levers you can pull to actually influence that MQL number? Is it number of blog posts? Is it how long the blog posts are? Is it how many times you've posted on LinkedIn? What are your weapons that are going to, and what are your leading indicators that are going to help you tackle your lag?
Absolutely, and it makes sense, and I absolutely love that, especially with the analogy to with sales over to marketing, because again, a lot of our audience sometimes it's very transactional, so that's one thing. But then the other piece is that sometimes it's like, well, marketing over here is it's just flyers and things. No, the reality of it is, if there's a funnel and it's a real deal, and you mentioned great acronym MQLs right there. So for those who might not be familiar with that, we're talking about marketing qualified leads. So really, we're marketing them. We're building awareness about us and our services and how we can help solve those challenges. And then once they're ready, then they become SQ. They go to that sales qualified lead. Okay, we know that they've got the budget, the authority, the timing, the need. Not everybody that's going to come to our website necessarily is qualified, and we want to sell to them. But no, I love it. And actually, so you said Franklin Covey was the 4 disciplines. Can you say that again? Sorry.
Yeah, it's the 4 disciplines of execution. There's a whole book on it, which I read and I got a lot of value from. But all you really need to know is wrapped up in a 5-minute YouTube clip just called the 4 disciplines of execution. It's a really great intro into the methodology.
Perfect. No, that's awesome. All right, I'll take a look at that. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. Yeah. So what would you, there's a couple things in there you said that I think was, well, not a couple, there's a lot that you said that was great. But one thing in particular that I was kind of latching on is, I'll ask you sort of the same question in 2 different ways, depending on where we see a lot of our audience that'll come from. One, for those that are like just starting, it's funny, we hear the whole Google Analytics thing, like, oh, we're doing this, and we're just trying to figure out SEO and all that stuff. But for those that are saying, hey, we're just starting and we are, we just want to kind of go into, what would you recommend from a Martech stack, like, and you kind of touched on it there, like, what are those big things that, concretely, what does that look like?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the size of your company, but there's some really great free tools out there. SaaS companies have been forced to become far more generous in their free offering because of there's so many options out there. So it's this capitalist point of view that like more options means more choice and a better product. So tools I love, Google Search Console is free. I don't know how many people know about it, but if you are looking to get into basic SEO and you don't outsource that, and you really want to understand keyword rankings, Google Search Console is a great thing to read up on. There's some awesome short YouTube videos. You can get certified and become an expert in a couple of weeks. Mailchimp is one probably everybody's heard of. They're an awesome way to send out email and communicate with your clients. And then there's 2 other ones that I would recommend. If you're not already using a CRM, I would recommend Hubspot free CRM. It's a great way to close the loop. A really difficult thing for marketers is closing the loop and getting that feedback from sales of like, hey, these 3 leads are awesome, but this isn't great. So let's get more of these 3 because all 3 of those closed. We call that closing the loop. And if your sales team isn't closing the loop, or if you're not making it really easy for them to close the loop, a CRM, especially a free one like HubSpot, is a great way to start. And then I would recommend if you're looking to, I think everybody can benefit from conversational marketing these days. Drift offers a free plan, which allows people to communicate with a bot on your site or communicate with one of your internal customer success people or salespeople. I get a ton of meetings every month booked from our pricing page. It's one of our best sources of qualified leads. People are on your site. They have a question that you can answer now. And you don't want that. Do you really want them filling out a form and then hoping that your sales rep gets back to them? Maybe not. What if they can help qualify that lead directly on the website? So that would be my top 5 free marketing stack.
Awesome. No, I love it. Actually, it's funny we mentioned chatbots on there. That was one of our things we put out for earlier 2018. The big things that you're going to see, coming out here, and I think it's absolutely awesome from multiple areas. But all those things, some great free tools. So thanks for that. Now I'm going to ask that question a little bit differently now. Okay, so for those that let's go back to those who've they're on this train, they love it, and they're like, okay, we need all the things, and here's our Martech stack, and here's and then they're like, wait a minute, what are we even doing? Is this even viable? How do you diagnose that situation? What advice would you give to somebody to say, okay, how do we evaluate what is important, what isn't?
Yeah, so I had a company say that exact thing to me, and what they did is they did a SaaS showdown where they literally took a whiteboard and they had a bracket like NCAA college basketball, and they put these 17 different tools that they're using. It was like SEMrush versus drift, and they laid it all out, and they actually they wrote down how much they were paying for it, and like how much it was saving them time. That's a good way to figure out, like, evaluate your stack, is just do kind of a competition and invite your team and see who protests the most. The thing I'll say about software, I have to educate people a lot on how to buy software. Mm-hmm. The way I think about buying software is more like you're hiring a person, and you can hire software and you can definitely fire software if it's not doing the job. I think a lot of people expect software to come in and solve their problem, but that's not how I look at it. Mm-hmm. If you have an existing process built out that you're doing, and that process is tight and it's repeatable, then and only then should you be evaluating software to come in and automate it. But if you don't really have a great process built out already, I wouldn't look to software to solve your problem. The best example I can use is like inbound marketing. If you're creating blog posts, publishing them to WordPress, sending them out in Mailchimp, publishing landing pages in Lead Pages, building forms in whatever you're building forms in, if you're doing all of those things already, then HubSpot makes a ton of sense. Right. But if you're not already doing inbound marketing, or you haven't already committed to it, it's like a gym membership. It's not going to solve all your problems. So I would, if you're trying to figure out what in your tech stack makes the most sense, I would think like, okay, what do we have good processes around, mm-hmm. and which softwares are we using that are actually automating those processes? And if we took those away and we had to go back to doing things manually, would that be bad? Would it be really, really bad? If it's not really, really bad, you can probably cut that tool. Yeah.
No, I love about the, hey, how to go buy software, make sure you do this, because that is, you're absolutely right, 100%. Like if there's no process around there, I mean, I hear this all the time. Hey, we got HubSpot, or we got Pardot, we got Marketo, or whatever. Marketing automation, it's automated, right? We just do it, and then it's just all of a sudden our marketing is there. It's done for us marketing, right? Because that's what it is. It's marketing automation. Okay, not exactly. And the same thing. We hear the same thing with like Salesforce. Integrating CRM or anything like that. So it's some really great.
You only get out of it what you put into it, and you gotta really plan out your attack, and that's why salespeople can be very helpful in that. I think salespeople get a bad rap a lot of the times in SaaS. They think that they're trying to sell you the dream, but in all actuality, I think a good salesperson at Marketo or Pardot or HubSpot, I think what they're trying to do is assess your current process, evaluate it, and then like help you figure out how to fix your problem. And maybe it includes their tool, and maybe not. And hopefully they're honest enough to tell you that and be transparent about it.
Absolutely. That again, totally makes a lot of sense. Okay, so wrapping up a little bit. Actually, one of the things that we get asked quite a bit is just with so many different platforms out there, and there's so many different technologies you may be using. It's funny. It's like you get this one. Okay, this is 80% of what we need is right here, but then now it takes another 10 platforms to fill up that next 15%. And that 5, you're just like, we're just not quite there. But one of the really big challenges we see is just, okay, great, we've got all these different things. Golly, how do we measure that and look at how it's is it really achieving the goals that we were trying to get after, and how do we generate report? Where I'm leading is I'm seeing some data visualization tools might be a little valuable, to do that. What does that look like on your end?
Yeah. So again, like taking a step back from software, like step one is fix your process. And I see a lot of reports. As you can imagine, mm-hmm. People are sending me their reports. I probably see 50 a month, and they say, here's my report. It's a headache. It's a bunch of PowerPoint. It's like 40 slides. Yeah. I say, how do you build it? And they say, we go into Google Analytics and we take 3 screenshots, and we go into this, we put all these screenshots into a PowerPoint, and we present it to our boss, and we're really excited. The boss flips through it and says, okay, like my eyes kind of glaze over and then they hand it back to us and say, what am I looking at? Right. Yeah. Problem there is the human brain is not built to analyze 40 to 50 to 100 metrics in a PowerPoint. That's not right. And the question I ask people is, realistically, as the marketing team and the resources that you have, are you realistically able to influence all 100 metrics on that PowerPoint? And then I'll pause and they'll say, no. I'll say, okay, then what does it matter then? Let's simplify, let's cut. Let's pick 5 to 10 key company goals or marketing objectives or initiatives that you're trying to influence, and let's put a number to it. The language is a SMART goal. It's an acronym. It means specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time limited. What are your SMART goals? Maybe it's traffic, maybe it's leads, maybe it's sales. That should probably be in your top 3. But then maybe it's Facebook ad impressions. Maybe it's Google ad reach. Maybe it's number of organic traffic coming to the blog. Pick those top 10 metrics and really focus on those. Buy a $300 TV off of Amazon, put it up in your marketing office, and then find some free dashboard solution that you can connect all your sources into, put those top 10 metrics up on the screen, and then set goals around them for the year. And then break those goals down quarterly, break those goals down monthly. So if it's 12,000 visits for the year, that's 1,000 sessions or visits a month. That's really easy. Now, and only now, can I start saying, okay, how do I get to 1,000 every single month? That's a much easier question to answer than how do I get more sales or whatever.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. No, it totally makes sense. Well, Brian, I've really enjoyed our conversation. We've talked about a lot of different things. Is there any other parting words you may have as we wrap this up?
Measure the metrics that matter so that you can do the things that you want to do, like getting off work early and going and spending time with your family.
There you go. That's awesome. That's important. Brian, well, listen, I really appreciate the time. I think we had, for those who are watching this, we had a few technical difficulties before we started here. So, but anyways, we really appreciate your patience on this. If anybody has any questions, like to reach out, ask you any, advice or questions or anything, what's the best way of reaching you?
I'm on Twitter at BMOS14, or just come to the Databox website and hit me up in the Drift chat. I'm there all day.
Awesome. That sounds great. So, Brian, thanks again. We really appreciate it. And this has been awesome.
Sounds good, Danny.
All right. Thanks. All right, so there we go. Another great episode with Brian Moseley from Databox, and a lot of great takeaways. Listen, if you are just kind of jumping into this and you're trying to figure out your Martech stack, really I think one of the big things that I took away was just keep it simple. And honestly, even if you're already heavily invested in this and your Martech stack is huge, again, go back to the simple things. I can tell you for like 90% of you out there, you're going to want to look at what Brian was talking about. Let's looking at like your traffic. Let's look at your leads, your conversion. That's really the big thing, because it's really how are we going to fill out that pipeline, and what does that look like? More traffic to your website, and let's convert them better, and then we can get them into leads, and let's close the loop, like you said. Let's figure out what our marketing activities are doing to actually really generate sales and really do that. So, anyways, thanks again for watching. If you're listening on iTunes, we'd love a review. If you're on social media, share, like, comment, all that great stuff. If you have any questions, reach out to us at IndustrialSage.com/questions. We'd love to answer them for you. And thanks again for watching. I'm Danny Gonzalez, and this is Industrial Sage. One of the most important elements of developing a digital marketing strategy is figuring out your buyer personas. We have a downloadable for you that is a quick walkthrough on how to fill that out. Long story short, your buyer personas are the people who are going to be buying your product, your prospects. They could be influencers or decision makers. And figuring that out is very, very critical to figuring out what your content strategy is and how you're going to deploy that and how you're going to distribute your content. So download this. It's just a quick few slides. And you can we have some questions, and you can fill out who those target personas are, and then you can take that and help to develop your content strategy. And this actually goes into the digital marketing content planner. This can kind of feed into that. So go ahead and download it, and if you have any questions, reach out. We'd love to help you.